When it comes to custard, there are many different types, but once you've mastered these three, you'll be able to make just about any dessert. Hi, I'm Astrid from The Sweet Rebellion, and today we're doing a masterclass all about custard. Today we're going to be making three types of custard. The first one is Creme Patissiere, also known as creme pat or pastry cream. The second one is a basic egg custard. And lastly, we're going to be making a Creme Anglaise or a pouring custard. Creme Patissiere is a thick, pipable custard that is used to fill cream puffs, eclairs, tarts, and even donuts. Then we have our basic egg custard, which is not quite as thick and is used to eat just as is or in a trifle. Then we have Creme Anglaise, which is a thin pouring custard, which is used to pour over steamed puddings, cakes, fruits. It's also used as the base to make ice cream. Custard is actually really easy to make. The only risk is that your eggs will curdle. The way to avoid this is to temper your eggs. So you're first going to heat your milk or cream, then gradually whisk it into your eggs and then return it to the heat and stir until thickened. So both our Creme Patissiere and basic custard contain starch as well as eggs to thicken it. However, the Creme Anglaise doesn't contain any starch and is therefore a little bit more prone to curdling. I'm going to work through each of these recipes with you and you'll see that they're easy enough to make at home. These are the ingredients you'll need to make Creme Patissiere. 2 cups of milk, 4 large egg yolks, half a cup of caster sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of corn flour, a pinch of salt, and 1 vanilla pod. The first step in making our Creme Patissiere is to heat our milk together with a split vanilla pod. So I'm just going to split my vanilla pod now and scrape out the seeds, and then add this together with the milk to my pot and heat it until it just starts to bubble around the edges of the pot. Don't worry if you don't manage to get every last little seed out of your vanilla pod, because we're going to throw the whole thing in with the milk anyway. For this recipe, it's worth using a real vanilla pod or at least vanilla paste with real vanilla seeds in it, because the flavor really does come through. If you'd like to try a different flavor variation, you can get creative and try infusing your milk with, for example, Earl Grey tea bags or some citrus peel, a cinnamon stick, anything you like. We're just going to set aside our milk and vanilla to infuse while we mix together our other ingredients. Once we've mixed our egg, corn flour, sugar, flour, and a pinch of salt together to make a thick paste, we can now temper the egg yolks. What this means is we're going to slowly increase the temperature so that the eggs don't curdle. And the way we do this is to take a ladle and gradually add a little bit of our hot milk mixture and whisk it together vigorously. So once you've gradually added about half of your milk to your egg mixture and mixed that very well, you can pour in the rest, give it a good mix, and then we're going to strain it back into the pot. And the reason we do that is just to remove if there were any tiny little lumps of egg or flour that didn't get mixed through. The custard mixture is going to go back on the heat now. We're just going to heat it over a medium heat and stir it constantly, so don't walk away even for a second. I like to use a wooden spoon because you can really get into all the edges of the pot, and if you use a whisk you might miss some bits that are sticking and burning. The other problem with using a whisk is that you incorporate a lot of air into your mixture, which makes it look like it's thickening a lot faster than it actually is. So as you can see, while you're stirring, all of a sudden it starts to get lumpy. But don't worry, just keep stirring vigorously and eventually it will all thicken and come together. Once you've removed your Creme Patissiere from the heat, you can decant it into a bowl, and then you need to press some cling film right down on the surface of the custard. If you don't do this, the custard will form a skin, and if you try to stir it back in later, it will form lumps in the custard. Now I'm going to put this into the fridge for about 3 hours so that it can set. Next we're going to make a basic custard. Now this custard is not quite as thick as a Creme Patissiere and definitely not as thin and pourable as a Creme Anglaise. It's just the right texture for a trifle or just to enjoy as a custard pudding. The method and ingredients for this custard is almost exactly the same as the Creme Patissiere. The only difference is we're not going to be adding any cake flour, so the custard isn't going to thicken quite as much. So for this custard you'll need 2 cups of milk, 4 large egg yolks, 3 tablespoons of corn flour, half a cup of caster sugar, pinch of salt, and a vanilla pod. So just like before, we're going to infuse our vanilla into our milk, and then we're going to temper our egg mixture. Just like before, we're going to heat our custard mixture over a medium heat until it thickens, which takes about 3 to 5 minutes. For the Creme Patissiere, as well as your basic custard, you actually need the mixture to come just to a boil before taking it off, and that's to make sure that you remove that raw starchy flavor from your cornstarch and your cake flour. So now we're going to decant our custard into a bowl, then cover it with cling film to prevent a skin forming, and allow it to cool for about 3 hours until it sets. The last custard we're going to make today is a Creme Anglaise, which is a thin pouring custard. So unlike the other 2 custards we've made, this one doesn't use any corn flour or cake flour to thicken it. So it's purely thickened by eggs. Instead of using 2 cups of milk, we're going to use 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of cream, just to make it a little bit more decadent. For your Creme Anglaise, you'll need 1 cup of cream, 1 cup of milk, 5 large egg yolks, half a cup of caster sugar, a pinch of salt, and a vanilla pod. So just like before, we're going to infuse our vanilla in our milk and cream, and then we're going to temper our egg mixture. This time, however, when you're stirring, we've just got to look up for a very slight increase in thickness. If you push it too far, your eggs are going to curdle. It does help if you have a sugar thermometer to make sure that you don't overcook your custard. The temperature that we're going for is about 82 degrees. Another way to check that your custard is ready is to see if it coats the back of a spoon. You'll run your finger through it and it should leave a clean line. If you're really worried about your custard curdling, you can also make it in a double boiler. Once your Creme Anglaise is thickened, it's ready to use immediately. However, if you prefer to serve it cold, you can pour it into a jug and cover it with cling film and put it into the fridge for about 3 hours. There you go. Now you know how to make the 3 main types of custard. Once you know how to make these, it'll open up endless dessert possibilities for you. The custard that I make the most is probably Creme Patissiere. I love using it as a filling for my fresh fruit tarts. You can find the recipe in my cookbook, High Tea at Home, or also on my blog. All the custards we learned how to make today are stirred custards, meaning that they are thickened on the stove. But you also get baked custards, for example, creme caramel or creme brûlée. If you want to learn how to make a great creme brûlée, check out my recipe here. Once your creme patissiere has set, you'll see that it's thick enough to use as a tart filling or to fill donuts, eclairs or pastries. And as you can see, it's thick enough to pipe. With Creme Patissiere, you can also make creme mousseline by simply adding whipped butter. Or you can make creme diplomate by folding in some whipped cream. And lastly, you can also make a creme chabou by folding in meringue. That just shows the versatility of this custard. Then we have our basic egg custard, which is the perfect texture to use for a trifle or to eat just as is. Lastly, we have our Creme Anglaise, which is a pouring consistency. It's great to pour over fruits or cold desserts, hot desserts like a Malva pudding, and also it's the basis for making ice cream. Let me know in the comments if you've made any of these custards before. And if you try one of my recipes, please remember to tag me on social media.